Hi, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to another video. Before I get into the video, I'm just gonna point it out that I am an old lady who hurt my shoulder. I slept with my arm under the pillow and I should not have done that. So if I look like I'm a little robotic today, that's why. Sorry, can't do anything about it. And it hurts if I look to my right too quickly. So apologies in advance if I'm wincing a lot. It's not you, it's me, I promise. In today's video, I'm going to be reading 3 arcs that come out in September. Those 3 arcs are Lucy Undying, Don't Let the Forest In, and A Dark and Drowning Tide. All 3 of these arcs are coming out in September, as I just said, and it is currently September 3rd, and I wanted to read them during the month that they were being released so I could talk about them close to their release days and help hype them up, because I am personally so excited for all 3 of these. I'm not sure when you will see this video. I think I will probably post it at the end of the month once I've completed all 3 books. Let's get into what these books are about. I do have my iPad here and I will be looking down because, hey, how are you? My name's Rachel. Have a terrible memory and I have to read it every time I talk about it. So I'll start with Lucy Undying by Kiersten White. This book is essentially a Dracula reimagining. The description says, a vampire escapes the thrall of Dracula and embarks on her own search for self-discovery and true love in this epic and seductive gothic fantasy. Her name was written in the pages of someone else's story. Lucy Westenra was one of Dracula's first victims, but her death was only the beginning. Lucy rose from the grave a vampire and has spent her immortal life trying to escape from Dracula's clutches and trying to discover who she really is and what she truly wants. Her undead life takes an unexpected turn in 21st century London when she meets another woman, Iris, who is also yearning to break free from her past. Iris's family has built a health empire based on a sinister secret, and they'll do anything to stay in power. 2 girls yearning. Can't wait. The next book I'm going to talk about is Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews. First of all, this cover, love it. I want to get a print of this cover just to hang it on my wall because it's stunning. And this synopsis says, once upon a time, Andrew had cut out his heart and given it to this boy, and he was very sure Thomas had no idea that Andrew would do anything for him, protect him, lie for him, kill for him. High school senior Andrew Perrault finds refuge in the twisted fairy tales that he writes for the only person who can ground him into reality, Thomas Rye, the boy with the perpetually ink-stained hands and hair like autumn leaves. It's giving tortured poets department. And with his twin sister Dove inexplicably keeping him at a cold distance upon their return to Wickwood Academy, Andrew finds himself leaning on his friend even more. There are 2 more paragraphs and I don't want to read them. I feel like that was a lot of information and it's enough for me to dive into this story head first. And the next book I'm going to talk about is A Dark and Drowning Tide by Alison Saft. The description for this one says, Lorelei Caskell, a folklorist with a quick temper and an even quicker wit, is on an expedition with 6 eccentric nobles in search of a fabled spring. The magical spring promises untold power, which the king wants to harness to secure his reign of the embattled country of Brunestad. Lorelei is determined to use this opportunity to prove herself and make her wildest, most impossible dreams come true. To become a naturalist, able to freely travel the lands she's only ever read about. The expedition gets off to a harrowing start when its leader, Lorelei's beloved mentor, is murdered in her quarters aboard their ship. The suspects are her 5 remaining expedition mates, each with their own motive. The only person Lorelei knows must be innocent is her longtime academic rival, the insufferably gallant and maddeningly beautiful Sylvia von Wolf. She sounds divine. Now in charge of the expedition, Lorelei must find the spring before the murderer strikes again and a coup begins in earnest. But there are other dangers lurking in the dark. Forests that rearrange themselves at night, rivers with slumbering dragons waiting beneath the water, and shape-shifting beasts out for blood as Lorelei and Sylvia grudgingly work together to uncover the truth and resist their growing feelings for one another. Don't resist, don't do it. They discover that their professor had secrets of her own, secrets that made Lorelei question whether justice is worth pursuing or if this kingdom is worth saving at all. I don't think I've ever read that synopsis all the way to the end. Why have I put this off so long? It sounds incredible! So the vibes I'm getting from this book are essentially like Victorian, maybe medieval era dark academia, like kind of spooky fantasy. What genre do I even place this in? I have no idea. All 3 of these books sound so incredible and perfect for that autumnal, dark, eerie like vibe that I really love in September, October, November. And I can't wait to dive into them. I'm so excited. They're also all gay, which we love. In this video, I'm gonna read them and find out if they are as good as they sound. My hopes are high, which means I have a long way to fall if they they don't succeed. And I will be crushed because they all sound stunning. They are all also YA, I believe, which you guys know, me and YA lately, we've been beefing. However, these three authors in particular are ones that I like have faith in to do like a YA justice. I have recently read a really amazing YA in August, so check out my August wrap up if you haven't. And that also gives me a lot of hope too, that maybe there are, you know, some good YA that are still out there that I haven't found yet, because a lot of the YA I've just been finding lately, like as an adult, it's just not for me. But I think YA is still a great age range for these kinds of stories. And teens deserve well-written books too. Let me just say that. It's not me being picky because it's for teens. Teenagers are smart. Teenagers are inherently capable of understanding the context of the book of which they are reading, and they deserve better books than what I've been seeing in the YA category lately. Without further ado, I'm gonna go read some of these books. Okay, I am 30% now into Lucy Undying. That's the book I decided to start with. I don't know if I said that in my clip earlier. But first things first, this is not YA. I think I was under the assumption that these three arcs were all YA, but that is wrong. Lucy Undying is definitely not YA. Some of the content is very adult. So I did a little quick Google search and confirmed the author did say this is not YA. But I really gotta say, I'm loving it so far. So I'm only 30% in, and we're following a main character named Iris and then this other main character named Lucy. And Lucy is the vampire, as you can tell by the title, Lucy Undying, and she's on the cover. So in Iris's POV, she's kind of escaping her life and her family name, and there's some mystery kind of around like what her family is into. Very early on, we get hints that her family is some kind of health empire, and I also believe it says that in the synopsis. But Iris is fervently trying to escape this name and basically get cash to run away, I'm assuming. It's so intriguing so far because Iris keeps dropping these like tiny hints in her POV about like her family and their history, their sordid past, this health empire, and how it's kind of like maybe a cult. And it's all these small little crumbs that are kind of building on each other, and it's just getting so interesting. I can't wait to find out what the fuck is up with them. And we also get journal entries that take place in 1870 from Lucy when she was a child, before she was a vampire, and her life was just... I just feel so much for her in the sense that, you know, back then women didn't have any agency and they were expected to wed and be a good wife and be a socialite, and they didn't kind of have any freedom to get educated and do like whatever they desired, and didn't have any freedom to pursue their own dreams. And Lucy's mother is also just a fucking bitch. So I'm really feeling for Lucy as a child. And then in the present day, I don't know if I said this, but it takes place in it takes place in this year, 2024, and partially in 2025. So in the future POV, we see Lucy, who is kind of giving an interview to this woman who I think she saved this woman's life. And then in the course of saving this woman's life, obviously she saw that she was a vampire because she had these powers, which is what helped her save the woman. So she's kind of giving like an interview to her, an expose, if you will, about her life as a vampire. So we're seeing Lucy in the past, Lucy in the future giving this expose, and then we're getting a present day to us timeline of Iris, who is the human main character. And I can't wait to see how these timelines come together. I have a few theories. Obviously, I can't say anything else, but I think I might be right on one of my theories. And this is the kind of story where even though I feel like I've made an accurate prediction, it's not taking away my enjoyment at all, because the characters are relatable and funny and just like mildly pretentious, which in a vampire story, I love that. That's a must. That's a quality that I need in a vampire. The atmosphere is really creepy. There's a spooky house situation that I don't really know what's going on with the house, but there are some eerie things happening there. And so even though my prediction feels accurate, I am really loving the ride. I'm loving the vibes, and I'm loving the characters, and I'm having a great time. I read one other book by Kirsten White, which was The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein, and I liked it. Don't get me wrong. I really did think it was solid, but it wasn't one that I like fawned over. I'm definitely never going to reread it, and like it was fine, but This one is amazing. So it's making me reconsider, like, maybe I should reread The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein, because I listened to that on audio and I didn't love it. But maybe if I were to reread it physically, I would like it more, because something about British narrators really just goes in one ear and out the other for me. And I think the narrator for that one was British. So I'm gonna have to reevaluate, maybe give it another try, because I'm loving Lucy Undying so much. Also, because it's an arc and it's not out yet as of when I'm reading it right now, and also it wouldn't have been out for that long once this video goes live, because I think this will be up at the end of September. I don't want to say anything else. I'm not going to spoil it, but I just think it's great. I'm loving it, having a good time. I will update again once I finish to give final thoughts, a final rating, if I still loved it towards the end, and my overall thoughts on the book. And then I'll chat about what I'm reading next after that. Hello, it is the 10th. So today is the release day for Lucy Undying. I'm about 53% in, and I'm really, really loving it so far. I think the vibes are very autumnal. Like, it's making me feel that, like, you know, dark academia, pretentious, like, autumn vibe that I just dig so much. And of course there's like a mystery, there's vampires, so it's definitely giving what it should be giving for the season, for the vibes. I actually just baked my famous they're famous, but like just to me and my friends, my famous pumpkin streusel muffins. I guess they're muffins, they're not really a cupcake, but I have to show you. And they are delicious. It's like 11 o'clock at night, so I need to cover those and put them away and then feed my cats and go to bed. I am doing sprints in the morning around 9 a.m. So my cat heard me talk about food, now he's meowing at me. I know you're hungry. Give me a second. I'll feed you in a minute. I have sprints in the morning, and I would love if I could finish Lucy Undying tomorrow. I don't think I'll finish during sprints, just because, you know, I'll be reading and then chatting in between. But I think I'm gonna start sprints at 9 and then probably get off at like 11 or maybe 11:30, and then eat a quick lunch. And then I'm gonna try to really, really hunker down and get in a good chunk of reading before Riley gets out of school tomorrow. I am so behind on my TBR. I need to hurry up and catch up and get with the program. Also, I know, give me a second. Also, random side note, I switched to my spare glasses because my other ones kept falling off of my face, and these ones are very like grandpa chic. It's giving like, oh, my glasses broke, so I stole these out of my grandpa's closet. But they actually have like a little torty design on the side. It's dark down here. I should probably have done this in the daytime. Anyways, I like them. I think the shape is definitely different than what I'm used to. I usually have a more square shape, but these kind of have these like almost octagonal corners. Like, obviously there's not 8 sides, but yeah, it kind of has like an octagonal feel, which I've never had like a funky shape glasses before. And I feel like I need to go on an archaeological expedition and go find some dinosaur bones or something. Like, I feel like a little studious, like. But yeah, so I'm gonna go to bed. I haven't updated a lot throughout the reading process just because it's an arc. I don't want to spoil. I mean, it's out now. It's out today, September 10th. However, I still don't want to spoil, you know, because it's fresh, it's new. She just came out. But so far, loving it. I really, really need to, the rest of this week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I need to put on my big girl reading pants and just hunker down and put my nose to the page and just read. I'm so behind. I keep getting so distracted by like literally the internet, like fucking Instagram reels and TikTok and YouTube. My husband comes home soon, and I think my brain is just kind of like, blah. You know, I'm overwhelmed with like having to clean the house and my kids in school and just making sure he's like good every day when he gets home. And I've just been doing it by myself for so long. You know, it's been 7 months now. It's been 7 months. I've been doing this parenting life shit alone for 7 months. So I'm just like so tired mentally. Like, my brain is just fried. So as much as I want to read, and I'm loving the 2 books that I'm reading right now, because I'm reading Malice by John Gwynne and I'm also reading Lucy Undying. So it's just like, I want to read. I'm really liking both of them, but my brain is not cooperating. So I think tomorrow sprints are really going to help, because I'll be on stream. So I won't be able to get distracted by my phone because people will be watching me. They'll be keeping me accountable. Yeah, but I just wanted to do an update because I know that I haven't updated in probably like 3 days, I think. So tomorrow, hopefully I get more done tomorrow. I'll let you know how sprints go, and then I'll talk to you later. Bye. Okay, I look absolutely disheveled. I think I'm catching a cold from my son who got a cold at school. Anyways, Lucy Undying. Oh my god, I'm 60% in. It's so good, and the plot has just thickened, and it's like shit is happening right now that is so like crazy. And it's funny because like we see the pieces along the way, and as the reader you're able to put it together, but in a way that's like you're supposed to know it. Like it doesn't feel like you're guessing something that's supposed to be a secret. Like you are supposed to know it, and now there's like this reveal happening. It's just crazy. I just gotta say, it is so good. Oh my gosh. Okay, I just got really excited because I just read something and got chills. I was like, I have to tell the vlog. It's so good. Today is Wednesday. I was supposed to have sprints this morning, but my lip was bleeding last night, and it was literally dripping into the sink, like dripping like a faucet, and it wouldn't stop bleeding for like an hour. So I was up till like 1:30 in the morning because I have white fucking sheets on my bed. I didn't want to wake up covered in blood, and my lip was bleeding so much. But I will be doing sprints tomorrow instead. Not that it matters because you guys are seeing this long after that. But I'm loving Lucy, which is amazing. It's giving me the best feels. It's the right vibe. It's exactly what I needed. I'll talk to you guys later. Hi. It's Sunday. I think it's September 15th. Oh my God, that's wild to say. Time is flying this year. And simultaneously going extremely slow. It just be like that. Anyway, I am updating to let you know I finished Lucy Undying, and it was so good. Oh my God. I flew through this book like truly. The last 40% was such a whirlwind, and I really loved it. I think it had great characters, great plot. It was a really fresh, unique take on Dracula, and of course I give it 5 stars. I'll give like more of a concise and put together thought in my final clip for the video, but yeah, I just wanted to update before I forgot and let everybody know I did finish Lucy Undying. Loved it. And the next book that I'm going to start is A Dark and Drowning Tide by Allison Saft. I believe this book comes out in 2 days on September 17th. That's a Tuesday. Book releases are usually on Tuesdays for some reason. I'm really excited for this one. The cover gives me like the best, like just eerie vibes, and I really hope it's got like a gothic horror element to it because that's kind of what the cover looks like. And Dracula, the original folklore for Dracula is gothic, but Lucy Undying was set in a more modern world, so even though it did have a lot of those gothic themes and some gothic feeling to it, it wasn't as gothic heavy in tone because it was such a fresh take on the original. But this one, A Dark and Drowning Tide, gives me a lot of hope for those gothic autumnal vibes that I'm absolutely searching for right now, absolutely yearning for at the moment. Yeah, I can't wait to get into it. I do have a lot of other books on my September TBR that I'm trying to get through as well. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit behind. Even though Riley's back in school, my brain has just not like had any focus lately. Like unfortunately, I'm just spending a lot of time doom scrolling, so I really need to kick that habit because it's god awful. But I'm finally feeling like I'm really in a good reading mood again. I read a lot yesterday and today of a different book that's not featured in this video, but really excited to start this arc too. I'll update you guys again once I've started A Dark and Drowning Tide, and then I will let you know my initial thoughts once I get a little bit into it. Hello, it is September 19th. I actually have no idea when I last spoke to you. Oh, it's dark in here. How's that? Is that a little better? I feel like this is ominous lighting. I'm so sorry. Is that better? Maybe a little. Okay, so I actually have no idea when I last spoke to you guys. It has to have been at least 4 days, 5 days. I don't know. Editing Rachel will know how long that's been. But I just wanted to give an update and let the vlog know. I started A Dark and Drowning Tide. I think I'm going to like it, but there's something about the writing style that's not really meshing right now in this moment with my brain. I am definitely gonna persevere and like keep going. I just finished Malice by John Gwynne earlier today, and that was like a wild ride, and the writing style was really like easy to read but engaging and like tense and epic. So immediately starting A Dark and Drowning Tide like a couple hours later, because I finished that before dinner, and then after Riley went to bed I started reading A Dark and Drowning Tide at like maybe 7 p.m 7:30 p.m, and I think it's like 9 now. But I wasn't like super driving with it, so I switched over to my other read for this vlog, which is Don't Let the Forest In, and I read 2 chapters of it so quick, and I'm already loving the writing style. It's definitely giving me like a little bit of that pretentious like prep school vibe, but there's also my cats every time I film. Scratching the litter box 300 times ain't gonna do shit for you, dude. Thank you. It's already giving me a little bit of that pretentious like prep school vibe, but also with the creepiness already. Again, I'm only 2 chapters in, but he was getting dropped off at his boarding school for his final year, his senior year at school, and before he got out, his dad was being like really sketchy, and he was like, hey, like we could switch schools if you don't want to come here. Like, I know it's the first day, but I'll take you somewhere else right now, blah, blah, blah. Like, his dad's really determined to get him to not go there. And he was like, I'm not having it, Dad. I'm going here. This is where my best friend is, who I think he's in love with, just based on the way that he's talking about him, which I'm down for. But yeah, then his dad was like, okay, just promise me one thing. Don't go in the forest. And I was like, oh, what's in the forest? So I'm really excited. This one is definitely going to be a quicker paced read for me than A Dark and Drowning Tide right now. So I think I'm going to stick with that one first and finish that first, and then I'll go back to A Dark and Drowning Tide. But it's been, how long has it been since I talked to you? I think actually it's probably been over a week. Well, I know that I haven't updated since I got bad news about my husband returning home from deployment. He was supposed to be here on this Sunday, the 21st. No, he was supposed to be here on Saturday, the 21st. And he texted me on, I think, Thursday, and was like, hey, bad news. They're pushing me back a few days. So now he's not going to be home till Tuesday, which I know that's not a lot of days. But when someone you love and care about has been gone for 7 months and you're finally getting close to like the finish line, you know, to be told like, hey, the finish line got pushed back a few days, just really sucks. And it really sucked, especially having to break my kid's heart because he's been counting down on the calendar with me. Sorry, I don't mean to get emotional. I'm just going through it. But yeah, so that sucked, having to tell my kid like, hey, we actually have to wait a couple extra days than we thought we did. And you know, he's only 5, and as well adjusted and patient as he's been during this whole deployment, he's still just a 5-year-old kid, and he cried, and you know, rightfully so. Like, he's allowed to be upset about it. But it just broke my heart to have to tell him that. And so I haven't been reading as much in the last like probably 4 or 5 days as I've wanted to. So, but I will update again, hopefully in a couple days before my husband gets home, with another update about how I'm feeling about Don't Let the Forest In. Based on the first 2 chapters, I have high hopes. It is YA, but some YA is fantastic. And I think because this is not fantasy, and it is definitely like a dark academia, like borderline horror, I think I'm really gonna love it, because it's not gonna have those YA fantasy romantasy tropes that are really like getting under my skin lately. So fingers crossed for Don't Let the Forest In. I am super hopeful about it. Also, the cover is just stunning, and the author recently posted on their Instagram that the finished copy is gonna have art in it of like sketches and drawings of like spooky things. So I need to love this book because I want to own it so badly. The pictures are beautiful. I'll post a screenshot of the author's post here. The art, the sketches are so eerie and perfect, and I love them. So if I don't love this book, I'm gonna cry, because I really, really want to buy a finished copy of it for that artwork alone. Sorry, this vlog has been so sporadic. I will update you all again, hopefully in a couple days. Bye. Hi, it is Monday, September 30th, and I wanted to update and let you know I'm 70% into Don't Let the Forest In. I left my Kobo downstairs, so I don't have it with me to show you, but you know what it looks like. I've been talking about it, and I really gotta say I'm loving it. I don't think it's gonna be like an obsessed kind of like, oh my god, I love it, it's a new favorite, but I am really loving the atmosphere, the forest as like this entity, and just there's some creepiness, there's some goriness, and I really kind of feel for the main character, Andrew, and I also feel for Thomas, who is his best friend, and they're just going through a bunch of shit together, and there's just lots of angst, and there's lots of like, there's high stakes, and it feels like things are about to come to like a culmination. And I think at the point where I am right now, like shit is about to hit the fan, and I easily could see this being a 4, maybe 4.5 stars for me, unless the ending absolutely like just blows my mind. I could give it a 5, but I don't think I'm going to be obsessed with it. But it is really, really solid and so good, and I'm loving it so much. I did have to take a week off because I filmed a banned books reading vlog, so I focused on those books last week. But as soon as I dived back into Don't Let the Forest In, it was like no time had passed. I just dove back in so easily. And again, the atmosphere really is just sucking me in. It is so, so, so perfect for autumn and October specifically. And I will update you again when I finish with my final thoughts about that. Oh, I am also still 10% into A Dark and Drowning Tide, but I'm just having trouble focusing on multiple things at once at the moment. So I am mostly just focusing on Don't Let the Forest In, but I really can't wait to get back into that one either. Hello. I finished Don't Let the Forest In on Monday, the last day of September. Today is currently October 2nd, and I forgot to update and let you know I finished it. I think it was great overall. I gave it about a 4.5 stars. I think that there's a little bit in the beginning that is very much like, I rolled my eyes at it a little bit because it's YA and like I like angst as much as the next person, but I think the angst started before we kind of understood like why, I guess. But needless to say, I think this book was really good at setting a scary atmosphere, and it has the forest as like a character, as an entity, like in and of itself, which I love when non-human things are kind of personified and are given like agency and made to be like scary in a book. And I will say, for being a YA, this book actually got really dark, kind of grotesque. It was definitely gory in places. Some of the imagery was just really like made me itch, made my skin crawl a little bit. And I think that writing and those descriptions specifically really helped my enjoyment of this story. We follow Andrew, and I felt for him and I could understand what he was going through, but then we also like get a lot of information about his best friend Thomas, and I felt bad for Thomas at times. But then at other times I was like, Thomas, like, come on, bro. Like, he's a kid, so he made mistakes, which is fair. And I think that there's some grown-ups in this book that I also didn't like. But I think you're supposed to not like some of these people because it's like a pretentious prep school kind of situation. It had a little bit of that pretentious atmosphere. The forest near the school had a very creepy, eerie atmosphere. It was off limits. They weren't supposed to go there. All these weird things start happening at school that Andrew and Thomas, for reasons they feel responsible for handling it, and they get entangled in this situation, and it's just scary. It's weird, spooky, and I think this book was so perfect for like October. It's definitely got those autumnal vibes. And I will say just one thing about the writing, which is why I didn't give it a 5 stars, is because even though I love the drama, I'm a Leo, I love the drama, I'm here for the drama, but I will say in some of the descriptions of like the emotions and the feelings that these characters were going through, it was just like a smidge too over the top for me. And I like when things are over the top, but I feel like there wasn't as much of a balance of like having some over the top moments that are balanced with like a little bit more of subtlety. There were some moments that were very subtle, and I think that there were a lot of context clues that you need to pick up on to understand those subtleties. But being that it is YA, as a grown-up, like as an adult woman, I feel like I picked up on those subtleties very easily. And I don't think there were enough subtleties in the description and the language to balance out those extra dramatic, over-the-top moments of like lyrical, flowery, poetic descriptions, which were beautiful, don't get me wrong. The descriptions were lush, vivid. I felt like I could smell like a crisp autumn air. I felt like I could hear leaves crunching under my feet, and it definitely heightened the atmosphere and heightened that creepy, spooky forest vibe for sure. Like, it did what it was supposed to do, but I just wish that there was a little bit more balance between that flowery, poetic, angsty writing with like a little bit more of like a subtle poetic, a subtle description. But overall, I really don't have many complaints at all. I think the very beginning, like the first chapter, we see Andrew in the car with his sister and his dad, and there's like animosity there. He's about to get dropped off at school. He's thinking about like his summer and how he wanted to talk to Andrew a lot, but he couldn't talk to Andrew a lot because of certain things that happened. But yeah, we get right away that Andrew is having some kind of familial strife with his dad and his sister. His dad and his sister are fighting. They're not talking. His dad's acting weird towards Andrew. He doesn't want Andrew to go back to school. It's implied very early on that Andrew was getting bullied, and his dad is like, we can bring you somewhere else. Like, you don't have to go back there. And it really laid a good foundation for, I think, Andrew's personality to change, which was great because we saw Andrew go through a lot of character growth, I will say. I won't say anything else, but if you've read it, you haven't read it because it's not out yet. But once you read it, you'll know what I mean when I say Andrew went through a lot of character growth in this book. And I loved getting that like initial setup of like, this is his situation right now. And then once he gets to school, we really get to see him grow and blossom. And I think that the creepy fucked up shit that was like going on in the forest was so cool. It was really fun. You know, it was a YA. I'm not like obsessed with it. I don't think I'm gonna make it my entire personality and reread it 5 million times, but I highly, highly recommend it if you like YA horror, if you like queer boys, if you want some ace rep. Andrew is a little ace baby and I just love him so much. He's a precious bean. After reading this book, I literally just like, I just want to protect Andrew. I will fight anyone who fucks with him because he deserves better than the asshats that the school give him. And the ending, I'm not going to say anything because it's spoilery, but I just want you to know, after I read that ending, I literally was like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Okay, what the fuck, actually? But no, really? What the fuck? You know what I'm saying? So, I'm sure that makes no sense to you. I'm sorry. It's not out yet. I can't spoil it. But the next thing I have to work on is A Dark and Drowning Tide by Allison Saft. I'm still only 10% in. Oh, so I think because it's been quite a while since I picked that up, I am going to start over because, again, I've only read 2 chapters. I'm going to start over. I'm going to really push through the first like 15 to 20%. I don't know what it was about the first chapter, but the first chapter, when I read it the first time, was so confusing in a way that like wasn't fun. There are definitely prologues and first chapters of books that I've read before that have been confusing in a way that made me want to know more. But something about A Dark and Drowning Tide, the first chapter, like I literally read it and was like, what the fuck? Like, I don't care about anything that's happening, and I also don't understand really like the world building or the setup so far. But with that being said, once I did get to chapter 2, then it kind of made sense a little bit more, and then I put it down to pick up Don't Let the Forest In because I wanted to speed through a read in that moment and I didn't want to have to read something that was going to take my time. But now that I have done that, it's a new month. I'm ready to dive back in and give it another go. I'm gonna read it regardless because it's an arc, but I have high hopes that it was just my mood in that moment, and when I start over this time, it's gonna go much better. Fingers crossed. In an unfortunate turn of events, I have a terrible head cold. I'm still only 9% into A Dark and Drowning Tide. I am gonna read a little bit right now before I go to bed, but I'm probably not gonna read too much because I do want to go to bed early because I'm sick. And the chapter I'm on is 34 minutes long, and I really don't love when books have extremely long chapters. I feel like 20 is probably the maximum where I could be like, that's fine. I would prefer if it was around like 12, but I feel like 20 is not terrible. When we get into the 30 territory though, I'm questioning all my life choices. I literally can't remember when the last time I updated is. I can't remember what the last thing I said was. It's been a busy like week here. Riley's sick, I'm sick, and Riley also had checkup yesterday, and we went to the doctors on Monday because we're both sick. So I don't really know what the last thing you saw was. Giving this update, who knows, maybe I'll edit this out because maybe I've already said everything I'm saying right now. Literally can't remember, but I will update you when I'm a little bit farther in to A Dark and Drowning Tide. Hi, I feel like I update you in this shirt from this chair all the time in different videos, and it's just a coincidence, I swear. I am 24% into A Dark and Drowning Tide, and I am liking the vibes, but at the same time, it's not like the most gripping thing I've ever read at the moment, although the mystery aspect did just start. But I think it's kind of wild that it took like 22% of the book to kind of set up the mystery, because it's also in the synopsis, and I think it's just wild that it took 22% for this murder to happen. And now we have, like, obviously the plot is going to be like what's happening after that, if they're going to investigate it, if they're going to continue with their expedition and so forth. But that being said, I think the writing is nice. I like the writing. I like the prose. It is a little bit lyrical without being like overly without being overly flowery. However, when I was reading the last chapter, I was just kind of thinking how there really hasn't been much world building. Like, a lot of it is focused on the characters, and sometimes we get like a little bit of info dump in one of the characters' heads, and the info dump isn't even like world building. It's kind of like history building, I guess. Like, it talks about like people from the past and kind of like political history, but it's not exactly world building, like what the world looks like, what the setting looks like. I'm not entirely sure like what kind of world this is. I literally have no idea if it's like Victorian or maybe like medieval or maybe like a mixture of the two. Like, I literally have no concept of like the period that this is taking place. Also, in the very first chapter, I thought the very first chapter was also my cat just pounced on a fly. I thought the very first chapter was also just a little confusing because we see the main character like doing magic, and then that's kind of like never explained. And now again, we're 24% in, and that hasn't really been talked about like at all since the first chapter. But she has kind of hinted like, oh my god, like I have to keep control of my power, but like we have no idea what it is, and we also have no idea like why she's magical, because the other people that she's with don't seem to be magical. And I don't know, I like it, but I think it's just really confusing, and I really hope some of the confusion will go away as I continue. But I'm not like obsessed with it right now, you know, and I'm 24% in, so I was kind of hoping by this point that I would be really invested and like rooting for the characters and like really loving the setting. But like, I don't really know anything about the setting, and I also don't really have reason to root for the characters. Like, the main character seems fine, like she's not an annoying character to follow. I'm also not like, oh my god, yeah, go Lorelai, like I love you so much. Like, I just kind of feel indifferent towards her at the moment. That sucks, because I really would love to just like, you know, be in love with the character and like really fall into the story, and that's not happening yet. But fingers crossed that it will get better as I continue.
You shall never acquire the dragon.
So today is October 21st. It's a Monday, and it's been a long time since I've talked to you guys. But let's wrap up my autumnal arc reading vlog. I started with Lucy Undying by Kiersten White, and I could not have loved this book more. It was exactly what I needed to get me into the fall, like spooky vibes. The vampire theme was on point, and it was definitely just fun and like campy, a little bit dramatic, a little bit pretentious in places. It was kind of over the top, but when I read vampires, like that's what I expect. And I gave Lucy a 5 stars. Definitely a new favorite vampire book for me. Absolutely loved it, and it was so much fun, and I think I will definitely read it again in the future for Halloween time. The next book I read for this vlog was Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews, and this one was also so much fun in the sense that it really played into those like creepy, spooky, autumnal vibes and tones throughout the entire work, and it was like eerie and a little gory and just a little bit mysterious, and it was all kind of like a dark fairy tale type of whimsy to it. And this one was really, really solid. I really loved Andrew, the main character, and his best friend Thomas. Just gave me all of the perfect like teenage angst, and it was such a good cross between like dark academia and like dark fairy tale, because they are at like a boarding school and there is a very mysterious magical component going on. So it was so perfect for October. And I gave this one, I think I gave it like a 4.25 or 4 stars. And the third and final book that I picked up for this arc is A Dark and Drowning Tide by Allison Saft. No, UPS is about to deliver me a package and I'm literally talking to a camera. Okay, they kept driving. Oh, that was stressful. So before I read this book, I was so intrigued by the premise because it sounded like one of my favorite like cozy, I guess it's cozy. I say cozy, but there are definitely high stakes and action. But one of my favorite cozy or fantasies is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and this book sounded like it was going to have that academic and magical meshing like how Emily Wilde did, but with the added plot aspect of like this murder that was getting investigated and kind of like a whodunit. And it was a small group on an expedition, so I kind of thought like maybe they're all in danger and we'll have that sense of like urgency on top of like the academia meshing with the magical creatures. And I was really hoping for a little bit more of a intense atmosphere, and I am very sorry to say I actually DNF'd this book at 77%. I was so close to the end and I had about 2 hours left, and I had been reading it for weeks and weeks, and I wanted to love this so bad. On paper, I should have loved this because it had magical creatures, magical academia, there's like a journey, it's sapphic, there's like a murder, it's like a band of like forced to be together, and there was like supposedly gonna be like snark and stuff between the group, and unfortunately the writing just really fell flat for me. I think the actual plot was fine. It's just literally the writing felt so disconnected. I did not ever, even one single time, root for these characters. I didn't feel like the descriptions of like the nature or the magic or the world itself, like I didn't feel like the descriptions really brought anything to life. They felt kind of like cold and removed. It didn't feel like a cohesive world that I was hearing about, a real world that existed. It literally just felt like somebody was listing bullet points for like what they wanted to write about, but they didn't actually like fine tune it. I really don't know what it was about this book in particular, but everything felt so disconnected. There were so many plot things happening. There was like this political aspect that kind of came into play where the characters were mentioning like, oh, so-and-so and, you know, other person and blah, 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 like these political powers. And it just kind of felt like unnecessary because we also had the murder that they were trying to solve, and they also were like searching for this magical thing, and they're like on an expedition, but like also like a lot of these plot points all could have went in different directions, and you could have also taken out this plot or that plot or this plot and it would have been the exact same story. So there were a lot of aspects that just were thrown into the pot, so to speak, and then they didn't get stirred together, they didn't get meshed up, they didn't get blended in, and it just felt like, I guess to stick on the food theme, it just felt like half baked. Like it felt like somebody had great ideas, put them in the bowl, and then forgot to like stir it up, you know? And I was really honestly just like so disappointed that I was forcing myself to continue. I was like, I'm gonna finish. And then I had posted on Instagram like, guys, I'm struggling so much with this book, like I don't know what to do. And I had a couple of friends reach out to me and they were like, just DNF. And I'm like, but it's an arc, like I feel bad. And then I had another friend who is also an arc reader, like on NetGalley, and she said she DNF reviews all the time, and like, you know, she still gets arcs from publishers and stuff because they want you to be honest. And so that was kind of like the final like push I needed to be like, okay, I'll just DNF it. I've read 77% of it. Like I have enough information to form a review of like why I didn't like it. So unfortunately, I won't be finishing A Dark and Drowning Tide by Allison Saft. However, I think that this book would be great for people who are newer to fantasy, or if you are newer to magical realism, because it does kind of have like an almost historical feel to it, but the world isn't like super fleshed out, and a lot of the focus is just kind of on the main character's inner dialogue. So it is a little bit easier to digest like the magic that we're seeing, even though it's not really explained. I think for people who are newer to magic systems, it would be a good like stepping stone for you if you want to pick it up. If you're intrigued by the plot, like the plot was fine, like I said, but like there were just too many aspects going on at once that didn't get fully formed in a cohesive like direction. So I do think it is probably going to be fine for a lot of people. A lot of people are probably going to like it. I just was extremely bored. I also couldn't care at all about any of them. So yeah, which is really sad because the cover is gorgeous and I wanted to buy it and put it proudly behind me, but unfortunately that one's gonna stay at the store. I will not be adopting that book. So overall, this was a super successful couple of weeks of reading ARCs for me. I had a 5-star new fave, a really, really solid 4.25 YA that I can highly recommend to younger readers, especially who want like that creepy, angsty, autumnal vibe that also doesn't shy away from a little bit of gore, but still being like, you know, YA appropriate, I guess. And also a dud. But honestly, 2 out of 3 is not bad. I would call that a success for sure. And it definitely helped get me in the autumnal October spooky vibes that I have been so desperately craving all summer. I was highly, highly, highly anticipating fall all year. So by the time you're seeing this, all of these books should be out already. Although I think maybe A Dark and Drowning Tide comes out, I can't remember off the top of my head. It's either the 22nd or it's the 29th. So I'll put that here because I can't remember at the moment. So that's editing Rachel's problem. If you pick up any of these books, please let me know what you thought about them, especially Lucy and Don't Let the Forest In. I feel like those are books that I would love to chat about because I feel like they had really interesting themes and had such crazy moments inside of those stories. So I would love to talk about them with you. I feel like I rambled too much and I don't know if I made any sense. Sorry about that. If you've made it this far in the video, please leave a ghost emoji and I will see you in the next one. Bye!